there are times when I never use an e-collar, and I might have the e-collar on the dog as like a dummy collar, meaning I'm not going to stimulate, it's just on the dog because I know that the dog is collar wise. So it's on there, the dog knows it's on there, but I'm never going to stimulate the dog. And those are in times when there would be any type of aggression towards anything, a human or a dog, or extreme excitement. For instance, if I'm using a shotgun or a dummy launcher, I don't use an e-collar. You know, it's on the dog, it's on as a dummy collar, but I'm not going to stimulate the dog. An example of a time that it would be totally inappropriate to stimulate the dog, say you're out in the field with your bird dog, and bird dog trainers, I've heard them recommend this, don't do it. A deer pops up, you know, and I've heard bird dog trainers say dial up the collar and zap the dog. No, don't do that. That'll make it worse, and the next time your dog sees the deer, it's really going to want to go after it. That is an indication, if your dog chases the deer, that you haven't done the proper amount of yard work. You need to go back to the yard and train the dog, and maybe train it to do a whistle stop, and make sure that the dog understands that if it hears the whistle, it goes into whoa or sit. You know, problem solved. You know, yard work is very important. It's very important that you also understand that, you know, the collar's used in training scenarios. It's not for zapping your dog around the house. You know, if your dog's screwing up. You know, if your dog's screwing up and you're zapping it all the time, the dog just gets confused. Keep the collar for training scenarios and training scenarios only. And, you know, anytime that your dog is going to be amped up, you know, don't use the e-collar. You know, it's not going to be that helpful. So it isn't a panacea. It's a tool that we use, but it must be used properly. And that's key. There's nothing wrong with using an e-collar, you know. It's a great tool, but use it wisely. And remember, you have 1.3 seconds to do a correction. You have to be very quick. 1.3 seconds is the time frame that you should think of giving positive or negative reinforcement. If you're doing it 4 seconds later after the dog, you know, was, you know, eating your food in the kitchen, you know, then you need to train the dog better and do training scenarios. Don't just go get the collar and start zapping the dog, you know, berating it. You know, I told you not to fucking do that. Don't do that. That's not how that collar functions. That is not how e-collars function. You sort of use it when the dog is being good, right? We use it to teach the dog to be compliant and to be compliant faster. That's how I use it. I really don't recommend that anybody uses the e-collar except in training scenarios, and stay away from using it in times of extreme excitement. It only increases the excitement, and dogs don't function well in that excited state. Either they bark, lunge, or just don't listen. So lay off the e-collar, make sure that it's... Oh, another time that you would never use an e-collar is when the dog is in the water. If you have a retriever and it's going the wrong way and it doesn't stop, so be it. But don't do a burn in the water. If you do a burn in the water, you're going to make the dog hate it, you know, and it doesn't, you know, it's not good. And by the way, if you have your dog and it's wet and you have an e-collar on it, make sure and dial it down 20 to 30% from where you're at. Keep those settings low. 20% and under is effective for most dogs.